Will the Disaster Recovery International Affairs and Planning Committee come to order? The time is now 1:32. If everyone can please silence their cell phone or noise-making devices, that would help our cause. Members, in accordance with the Sunshine Law, if you are not in the council chamber, please identify by name who, if anyone, is in the room, vehicle, or workspace with you today. Minors do not need to be identified. Also, please see the last page of the agenda for information on meeting connectivity. My name is Tamara Paultian, and I will be your chair for today's DRIP committee meeting. With us, we also have our committee vice chair, Nohelani Hodgins, online. Aloha Awinala, and welcome home.
Aloha. Thank you so much. Aloha, Chair. Aloha, everyone. I'm sitting at my dining room table, which doubles as a school workspace and an office workspace. I have 2 minors at home, as well as my husband, Cole Hodgins. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And with us in the chamber, we have Councilmember Tom Cook. Aloha Winala.
Aloha, good afternoon, Chair.
Aloha, good afternoon. Next up, we have Councilmember Gabe Johnson. Aloha Winala.
Aloha, Chair, council members, community members. There's no testifiers at the Lanai District Office, and I'm here and ready to work. Mahalo.
Thank you. Councilmember Tasha Kama will be excused for today. As also, we'll come back to Charlie and let her get it set up. We have Councilmember Kiani Rollins Fernandez in the chamber with us. Aloha Winala and welcome home.
Aloha Awinala, Chair. Kia ora. Nice to be home. There are currently no testifiers at the Molokai District Office. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. We also have Councilmember Shane Sinensi. Aloha Winala.
Aloha Winala, Chair. Also no testifiers in Hana.
Thank you. And Councilmember Yukile Sugimura. Aloha Winala.
Aloha Winala, and so wonderful to see all these people in the chambers with us today. Looking forward to a productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Council Chair Alice Lee. Aloha Winala and kia ora.
Aloha Winala and kia ora. Good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. This meeting of the Disaster Recovery International Affairs and Planning Committee of the Maui County Council is located on the traditional Aina of Kanaka Oiwi, who never ceded their sovereignty to the United States. We recognize that Her Majesty Queen Liliuokalani yielded the Hawaiian Kingdom to the U.S. in duress under threat of violence to avoid the bloodshed of her people. We further recognize that Hawaii remains an illegally occupied nation state by the U.S. as documented in a 2021 scholarly article for the National Lawyers Guild Review by Andrew Reed, adjunct professor of law of the University of Denver Sturm College of Law. Generations of Kanaka Maoli and their knowledge systems have sustainably cared for Hawaii and continue to do so. We are grateful to occupy this space and learn the ways in which we can contribute. As a committee, we seek to support the varied strategies that the indigenous people of Hawaii are using to protect their land and their communities and commit to dedicating time and resources to working in solidarity. From the administration, we have Managing Director Josiah Nishita. Aloha Winala. And from the Office of Recovery, John Smith, Administrator. Aloha. And in the crowd, we have a whole lot of people, not the least of whom is Deputy Director Aaron Wade, Executive Assistants Jennifer Maiden, Helene Kao, Jordan Hart, Patience Kahula. I'm sorry, Patience is the CDBGDR Program Officer. Stephanie Nakasoni Ramsey, who is the CDBGDR Communications Specialist, and I believe also Deputy Corp Counsel Michael Hopper. From Horn with an E, LLP, we have Sean Almonte, Director in Government Services, Jeannie Sutton, Program Manager. From Tetra Tech Inc., we have Christina Hendrick, Director of Post-Disaster Programs, Meredith Sanders, Public Assistance Program Manager, Kathleen Shu, Vice President, Bowers and Kubota Consulting Incorporated, Kim Pugel, Water Infrastructure Funding Manager, Stantec Consulting Services. And we also have from Lahaina Community Land Trust, Autumn Ness, Executive Director, and Carolyn Alvelo, Director of Operations. And there's a lot of other people here that I haven't named, but we appreciate all of you and the CNHA crowd and Pa'akai Communications as well. Without objection, I'll designate these individuals mentioned as resource person under Rule 18A of the Rules of the Council due to their knowledge and expertise in assisting with Lahaina and Maui's long-term recovery efforts. And if we need to designate more people that are in the audience as resources, we can designate them at that time with their name and title.
No objections.
No objections.
Thank you. Committee staff, we have Senior Committee Secretary Yvette Boutillier, Legislative Analyst Jarrett Pasquale and Keone Hurdle, Legislative Attorney Carla Nakata, and Assistant Clerk Jean Pokipala. On the agenda today, we have DRIP 9-4. Na hana no ka ho'ola ana ya Maui I ka wā e hiki mai ana. Maui's long-term recovery operations. Under Rule 7B of the Rules of the Council, the committee intends to receive presentations on Maui long-term recovery programs. No legislative action will be taken, and I've scheduled this item to update the members as well as the community of options that people can take as far as programs for recovery. So I would like to open up for testimony before the presentations, just in case anybody needs to leave and can't stay. And then we'll have the opening comments, presentations, and then we'll call for testimony, and then we'll go into discussions. So at this time, is there anyone that wishes to give testimony before the presentations?
Chair, we have 2 individuals signed up right now. Do we want to read the, I need to read the testimony disclaimer. Just call them.
You can read the first name and we'll ask if they want to give testimony first.
The first person signed up is Jessica Stanley.
Jessica, did you want to go before the presentation? After, okay.
And then we also have Ginger Prince signed up.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else wishing to give testimony before the presentations? I see one individual approaching the podium.
Aloha Abakea, Oval Jassy Law from Kulauka, Waiakoa, Ahupua'a. Thank you, Luna Ha'omolu Paulton, for that introduction. Report about Queen Liliuokalani and the Kanaka Moivi. I was really listening this time. Andrew Reed, that's the name of the guy that did the lawyer stuff. And Queen Liliuokalani is happy, and she's very happy that the people are beginning to learn the truth, and she's listening for her language, Olelo Hawaiian. So thank you for everybody being here. I just wanted to tell everybody that before you start leaving.
Thank you, Mr. Law. And there are 2 presentations that we're having, should have been uploaded to Granicus already. And so they just were uploaded at Gavel Inn. If you don't see them, you may need to refresh your browser, that little arrow thing in the corner. But I would like to start off with the Land Trust presentation and then go on to the Office of Recovery presentation.
Chair, before we begin presentations, if there's no objections, would you be able to close oral testimony at the beginning of the meeting?
Sure. If there's no objections, I'll close the oral testimony at the beginning of the meeting. We can have testimony after the presentation still, but this is just the beginning oral testimony.
No objections.
No objections.
Can they testify after the presentations? Okay. All right, so we'll start off with the Land Trust presentation and then move over to the Office of Recovery presentation. And these are programs available to our community that are recovering. I believe the Office of Recovery can clarify specifically who is the program open to and what the priority is. But for the Land Trust, it's specifically to the Lahaina impacted community. And
Okay.
take it away, folks.
Okay, thanks. My name is Autumn Ness. I'm the Executive Director of the Lahaina Community Land Trust.
Aloha, I'm Carolyn Aviloa, Director of Operations and one of the founders of the Land Trust.
I just really want to mahalo the people in this room for helping us get here. This has been a sprint from while the fire was still burning. And this organization has come a long way. We are still sprinting, and we will be for the next couple of years. But the support from the county, counties and community land trusts working together across the country is really a national best practice. But you guys have really, really stood up and believed in this dream. So thank you. Next slide, please. Do we have control? Okay, great. First, pop quiz. This is a headline. Wailuku short of houses and Lahaina also. Anybody want to guess what year this headline is from? I'll give you the answer. Next slide, please. 85. We have an 85 in the house. Next slide, please. The answer is 1921. 100 years ago. Yeah. Clearly, housing is not a new problem. I'm looking at you folks, the entirety of your political careers. We have been talking about this, and we haven't solved it yet. The good news is we can absolutely solve it. We just have to do it in a different way. And harnessing Lahaina's tragic situation and fire relief is going to allow us to do that. We've been dealing with this problem since 1921. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. That's okay. And we knew as Lahaina was burning that this was about to get way worse. You folks remember the fears about the land grabs, the calls that our fire survivors were getting on their burned houses with cash offers. The data says, this is not just a fear that we all held, the data says that this is what happens after disaster. People throw the words disaster capitalism around, and I don't think that really sits, but that's what happens. There's a playbook. Katrina and New Orleans is one of the worst situations. This is the example of what we cannot let happen to Lahaina. These are just some headlines. If you advance to the next slide, you'll see some real numbers about how local New Orleans families were displaced after the disaster. And we're talking about, when we talk about metrics, there's like how much money goes out the door in the first couple of years after the fire? How many structures were rebuilt? All of those are metrics. A different metrics that a lot of federal agencies don't take are 10 years later, how many local people are living in those homes? 10 years later, how many of those homes are now Airbnbs associated with eviction notices from the tenants that lived there, that moved in right after the fire, right after the disaster? Those are the metrics that we're concerned about. We're concerned about the 10, 20, 30-year, 40-year, 3, 4, or 5 generation metrics about what Lahaina looks like after the fire and all this aid moves in. Next slide, please. I want to take a minute when this next slide comes up to talk about, there is the way a community land trust functions, which is purchase land, build homes on top, sell the homes to income qualified people. That is what a normal community land trust does. In this situation, Lahaina Community Land Trust decided we have to stick really close to our goal, but we have to be very nimble in ways that allow us to show up for our community and their real needs right now. And so what that looks like, it's less about buying land than it is about stopping the post-disaster, distress-driven sale to investor pipeline. That is a pipeline. Distress-driven sale to investor pipeline. That's what happens. So how do we interrupt that, right? In the beginning, we thought maybe we're gonna have to buy all this land and secure it on that end. But then it felt like, wait, if we're waiting for people to get so desperate that they have to sell their land, that feels really wrong. Can we prevent that in the beginning? And so that's one of the programs we're going to talk more about in depth, but just to give you an overview of what we do, the thing that I'm going to talk about, 3 lanes, they all have the same goal and the same is permanence. We're not just solving this problem right now so that our kids have to deal with it in the future. We need to solve this once and for all. We need to do it in a way that makes Lahaina stronger than it was August 7th, 2023. We can do that. We can be the first community in the continent that comes out of a disaster of this magnitude stronger than we went in. Lahaina can do that. We will do that. And it centers the real needs of the residents and fire survivors and not an agency's metrics for success or previously existing playbooks. And so what that looks like is there's 3 paths. The next slide will show path number 1. This is not how a normal community land trust functions, but we are not a normal community land trust. We created this.
We created this pathway in response to the recognized needs of our community and the real challenges people were having in figuring out how to make the math to rebuild their home when their insurance fell short. It was actually inspired by a wonderful idea by our county councilwoman to create an insurance gap program that would help our residents the way that the county had helped other developers to restore multifamily projects that had been destroyed by the fire. And so that's what led to the birth of this Keep Lahaina Home program. And it's one that we're very proud of. And as Autumn explained, this is one path of the work that we're doing to help Lahaina recover. It's separate than the acquisition and build homes path, okay?
Okay, so this one is our Keep Lahaina Home program. This is the proudest one that we have. This is actually not land that we acquire. This is sales we prevent. So we work with families to fill their insurance gap, so that they can rebuild. We do not take title to their land. They remain the landowner in exchange for us filling the gap, which, you know, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, depending on the family. They agree to put protections on their aina, which we call a kama aina easement. It's essentially a deed restriction that reserves their land forever for owner occupants. It will be, we establish a base price with the homeowner. There's a slide for that in a minute. It will appreciate at 1.5% a year and will only ever be purchasable by either the community land trust or another Lahaina qualified buyer. So that's our first path. I'll delve deeper into this one in a second, but just an overview. So the tool here is a deed restriction. Path number 2 is this traditional community land trust model, where we buy land that does go up for sale. There's a lot of reasons that land does go up for sale. We purchase the land, we build a home on top, we sell the home and not the land to a buyer, and the ground lease is the tool that ties the home and the land together. All of these have the common thing, the same rules, whether it's a ground lease or a deed restriction, the 1.5% annual appreciation, preference given to longtime Lahaina residents, has to be owner occupied. Same goal, slightly different tool. Path number 3, which we added, when I say that we pride ourselves on being nimble and meeting our people's needs, this is what I mean. We added a 3rd path, which is foreclosure intervention. Foreclosures are on the rise. We're gonna see more than I'd like to admit in the next 12 months. And so we added a lane where we can intervene in that. And what that looks like for a lot of families is we have to make an offer on the property that they can take to the bank, stay the foreclosure, pay off what they owe. They have a little bit of money left, usually, and then we can offer them a path back to their aina. We retain ownership of their land, right? But the family or their heirs can have a first right to purchase the home that's built on top. And this has been a really tragic and beautiful solution that we found, because otherwise the land would end up on the auction block. Okay, so to delve into the next slide, we were called here to talk about our path number 1, our Keep Lahaina Home program. Like Carolyn said, this program was created because of you folks. You heard a concern from the community. You decided that you're gonna seed this insurance gap program with $3.5 million. We answered the call to carry this kuleana, and it has blown up. We are helping way more than our original $3.5 million worth of people. We have partners in the room right now that are allowing us to do this. Hawaii Community Lending, Ho'ola, the LTRG, Habitat for Humanity, the Mennonite Disaster Services, like so many people have signed on to this model that we are gonna help people rebuild their homes, and we're gonna do so in a way that makes our generations be able to stay too. Next slide is more about those partnerships. We all collectively agreed that we will not allow gentrification and displacement to come to Lahaina, whether it's this year, whether it's 10 years, whether it's 20 years, it's a never. And so we decided that anytime over $100,000 in grants or in-kind support is given to Ohana to help them rebuild, it comes with the protections that we all agree on. We use the same language, we use the same paperwork, we are all at the same table. It's really, really a beautiful thing. And the community is so proud of this thing. If we don't do it this way, we're just handing our kids another housing crisis. Next slide, please. What that looks like in practice is this very sexy flow chart where we really pride ourselves on staying in our lanes. We are surrounded by experts. Hawaii Community Lending are the finance people. They help people get to the certified, this is actually how many assets you have, this is actually your gap, this is actually the most you can get out of your insurance, this is the best way to use your SBA. They help the family with that. Then they kick them into the LTRG, who identifies there's like menus of different aid support that could fit this particular family, and we start piecing together a solution. Then we sit literally around a table with all of our partners, and we look at this family's gap, and we figure out how to chip away at it. Sometimes that's an appliance package, sometimes it's a subsidized roof, sometimes it's subsidized labor. There's all manner of ways this can go. Sometimes it's cash. And then they move into, here's all the money we're gonna use to get this house rebuilt, who pays out first, this draw schedule, all those things that come with construction. We get it funded, they sign the protections, the deed restriction, and they go on the construction pathway. We can't do any of this alone.
And I would just add that the families that are coming into this program are those that, again, have a real gap, a real gap that they don't see a real good way of filling. Many of them already work long hours, 2-3 jobs. Everybody's maxed out. Their house was already loaded. So often the crossroads they're coming up to is figure out how to get home. Build something too small that the whole family can't fit in, but maybe they can afford, or look elsewhere. And so we're so grateful to have been empowered with resources and partnerships that we're helping them find pathways to replacing what they lost, remaking them whole again. Some of the terms of our projects are we're replacing like for like. What did you lose? That's what we're replacing. Only modifications are to bring it up to code, or like one family said, Kupuna wants to age in place. Can we just make the hallway wider? Changes like that, of course. Things that are practical and reasonable, of course, but it's getting people back home, helping them be made whole again. And the families that are coming through and receiving this assistance, they know what their option was, and they're so grateful when they have not just a path home, but a path home that they will be able to rest assured that they can afford, that they're not gonna be stressed out for figuring out, how do I fit another job in the limited time I already have? Or maybe dad can finally retire, who's still working at 78 years old, So there's so much humanness to this story. I don't want it to be missed. Yeah. Thanks for letting me jump in.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. If you go to the next slide, these are the nuts and bolts. We've talked about this a little bit. There is really no average, but if, people like averages. So the average gap is around $400,000. This is the things they agree to. They agree to a protection. We've established a base price. I'll go over that in a second. They agree that at 1.5% annual appreciation is fair. They agree that it'll only be owner occupied. And the families, this is a point of pride. At every single signing, the final document signing that we've had, in some way, shape, or form, the elder person in the Ohana says something like, this is so cool, we have a path home, and I know that when I die, my kids or my grandkids, one of them, all it takes is one descendant to see dollar signs on grandma's house and get the whole rest of the family to flip it for what they think is market rate. And we're seeing it play out in Lahaina right now with families and land. It rips the family apart. So the oldest person, every single time, in one way, shape, or form, says, I'm so proud, we're gonna come home, and this Aina is protected. It's protected for my family, and it's protected for the community. One of the uncles at the last thing, we have a Keep Lahaina Lands and Lahaina Hands bumper magnet on the table. He picked it up and he said, now I know what this means. I see this on cars all over the place. He's signing the paper right now. Now I understand what this means. We're keeping Lahaina Lands and Lahaina Hands. We just looked, we keep numbers of years lived in Lahaina for each of our property files. For our first 10 Keep Lahaina Home families that we're helping with our rebuild, the collective number of lived years in Lahaina for only the current living generation is 1,500. With any of those families without rebuild support, their other option is to sell and go where? Not Lahaina. So without this intervention, we have preserved currently lived 1,500 years of Ike that rests on all the generations before them. Those are the guys who know where the fish run, who know that the kaunaoa never grew there before the fire and now it is. All those kinds of stuff is from those families.
Yeah, they're the ones that hold our stories. They're the ones that have worked their whole lifetime in the economy that is Lahaina. And they're proud that they're committing their home to future generations of stability and life being able to be lived in Lahaina in a sane way. I don't know if I can convey it enough. I don't know if anyone can relate to what it's like to live in a place that is so expensive. I don't know if you really understand how hard it is that your parents had to work, you had to stay at home with your spouse working, with your 4 kids under the same roof, they're graduating, and they still can't afford to move out. And how hard it is to just make the math, that when these families know that they not only have a path home, but they also have a mortgage they can afford, and the relief that that brings, the amount of stress that that relieves, these are metrics that are important to our community. We say we care about mental health, and we care about sustainability, and we care about thriving communities. These are the things that affect quality of life, especially in Lahaina, but probably anywhere, probably in Kihei, probably on Lanai, probably on Molokai, right? Hana? None of us are immune to it. And we're just grateful and want people to know that we didn't invent this either. We are using tools that have been tested and proven in other parts of the country over and over and over. We are just at the beginning of our story. Give us 50 years. I bet we're gonna even outpace what Vail did in the change that it's gonna create for Lahaina, not only its community, but its economy. Because I know a lot of you guys in here care about that. The workforce, the economy, getting the businesses back. How many businesses already had a hard time find workers? Why they couldn't find workers? Because cost of living was too high. It's a holistic thing. This is a part of that solution. And we just, again, appreciate that you guys supported us in the beginning, and we want to show you the future and the more of the vision so we can look for how we can make this maximally beneficial. Thank you.
Okay, so last thing, because I know you guys, in a lot of housing things, people think you're gonna cap, next slide, you're gonna cap the appreciation of a home at 1.5%. What about generational wealth building? And so we added a slide here because it's a valid question, and we really need people to understand this math. This is a real situation. This family was earning $40,000 a year. Their pre-fire payment for their house was $1,200. We do this in a way that preserves their pre-fire equity. So before the fire, their house was worth $678,000 before it burned down. Their rebuild cost to rebuild what they lost is gonna be $615,000 in this current market. And they had $344,000 of insurance that they brought to the table. We've identified their gap as $270,000. They got an SBA loan to pay off their mortgage. And so their current, if we fill that gap and they used SBA to pay off their mortgage, they have a new payment, house payment of $1,100. That's their current situation. They're gonna come home continue living in Lahaina for $1,100 a month. Let's say they want to sell it now. Well, actually, next slide, please. When we sign the papers and when they move in, we all agree to a base price of their house. Yeah, okay, so we already said their pre-fire equity, their pre-fire home value is $678,000. We're doing everybody a bit of a solid to say that in a normal situation, the assessed value and appreciation over the last couple of years, we're gonna add 10% to that, just to make sure we're preserving your equity. Their post-fire home value would now be $746,000. We're gonna subtract the cash we gave them to fill the gap, right? So their home value, 746 minus 270, their starting base price of their house is 476. That's what's recorded in the deed restriction. From now on, from the day of move-in, that house is gonna appreciate at 1.5% a year. We all know that, we've agreed. So let's say in 2038, in 15 years, they decide to sell. That's $476,000, the base price, at 1.5% a year. The house can now be sold in 15 years for $583,000. Still affordable. Go to the next slide and let's look at what that means for that particular family. Their resale price is $583,000. They have $123,000 of their mortgage to pay off. Let's assume $15,000 in closing costs. That family is gonna walk away with $445,000. That is not nothing. That is not robbing a family's ability to build wealth. That is fair. And that means that they can, if they wanna sell and go somewhere else, if they wanna sell and put that into their next home, great, and the next family gets to benefit. And this just keeps happening. We never have to put more money into this house again.
Every single home we can put this protection on builds an inventory of perpetually affordable home ownership opportunities in Lahaina. So we don't have to keep trying to put this out every year. Oh, it's expiring, 10 years, 15 years, it's expiring, it's going out in the open market. Oh, now it's been sold for $2.5 million. How are we gonna get that back into the affordable range, right? It's impossible. But look at the amount of subsidy we put into this and what it got us. This family still keeps their equity and they now become a part of the solution, and they never have to fear that, oh, if I sold it to the neighbor's kid down the road, what's gonna stop him from selling it to the highest bidder? It can't happen because this goes with the land, right? This deed restriction, this Kamaina easement goes with the home. So if I sell it to the neighbor's kid down the road for an affordable price and he sells it in 10, 20 years, he's got the same managed appreciation model. So it's gonna be affordable to the next person. It eliminates the FOMO, right? Nobody has to be afraid that, oh, I'm gonna miss out and somebody else is gonna get mine. No, it's a commitment to community. It's a commitment to the future affordability and the future ability for Lahaina, for local people to be able to live and call Lahaina home. And that's what resonates with our community, because that's what everybody's sick and tired of. We're sick and tired of people telling us you're gonna be priced out of your community. Your kids are not gonna be able to stay here. No, we can change it. We are changing it. This is how we commit to the future by doing this. This is how you put people over profits. And it takes all of us doing it together. We can't only point at the businesses and say, oh, well, they need to put people over profits. No, we all have a kuleana to it. And this is one way. And the Community Land Trust is a trusted organization that's going to steward this and make sure that everybody plays by the rules, you know? And this is how we pay it forward. This is how we're taking this disaster, this awful situation, and we're making it for a better future. And it's awesome. It's so hopeful, guys. It's so hopeful. I never thought we would see the day that we'd actually see affordability improve in Lahaina. And models like this make it possible. Sorry, I'm getting emotional up here.
You're great, sis. She just already did the next slide, so you can. So the next slide says exactly what she just said. That this only works because we have so many partners here and all over that have agreed. They've locked arms with us and the rest of the community and saying, we're not doing this. We're doing this different now. So the final slide is a bit more of the same. This works because Lahaina is a special place. And Lahaina is a special place because of its people. And its people are the ones that are committed to making this work. It's like it's a beautiful cycle. But when we start seeing those people leave, this isn't gonna work anymore. So the last slide is our contact information. We're here to help or collaborate, or if someone in the listening audience is in need, to reach out to us, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have the Office of Recovery. They also have 3 programs. This is money from the federal government, and so we have, or they have to work within parameters given to them by the federal government. Not saying they wouldn't want to do what we're doing over here, but most of the money here is county government money or investor, other donators' monies. So take it away, Office of Recovery and Managing Director.
Thank you very much, Chair Paulton, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. I feel like haven't seen you guys in a while since our last meeting, but really appreciate opportunity to be here. Yeah, we're excited to kind of share a lot of the updates about things that have been happening. I know a piece of what we've talked about with the council earlier was a concern over capacity and how we're kind of building out the teams and whatnot. And so a piece of what we want to do here today too is to kind of reassure you, who you see in the gallery now is a fraction of kind of everybody at play that is helping, our recovery work. There's so many partners at the table. One of the things that I hear from so many communities that seems to really set us apart is how the government and our local nonprofit agencies and other partners have been trying to work very collaboratively and closely in all of this work. And I think that has helped to streamline a lot of efforts, as well as, reduce, any duplication of efforts to the extent possible. And of course, there's a lot more work to do and more improvements that we can be made, but I'm so proud of all of our team members, both county staff, as well as all of our community partners who have stepped up in so many different ways for that. And of course, but without saying that, we express our appreciation so much for council support, even including county general funds to help us stand up a lot of programs, and also stand up kind of our DR team prior to even appropriation being made by Congress. And so, as a first-time grantee, I believe we're one of kind of the quickest to the table here and in launching things, and it's in no small part to the support that you've provided in terms of manpower and funding, so appreciate that. Mayor has given us really one marching order here, and that's to keep our people at home. And so everything that we're trying to do here in our recovery work and with all of our teams is to keep our people home. And, that can get very complicated at times as we navigate a lot of, decisions and federal frameworks and policies and regulations and whatnot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're really trying to help, restore our community and keep our people at home. And ultimately, I think the last thing I would say before handing it off to our recovery manager to go through our presentation today is that, everything that has been done thus far has really truly been a collaborative effort amongst everyone. And so we hope to continue all that collaboration amongst the council and all our community partners. And, we wouldn't truly be here where we are today without all of that support. So I'll turn it over to John, and we'll be available for questions after. And of course, we have a lot of team members here too, in case that's needed.
Thank you, Josiah. Aloha, everyone. It's nice to see you. I haven't been here as much as Josiah has lately, but I'm happy to be here, and we'll be back as much as we need to. This presentation is a holistic presentation for recovery. So we have about 50-some slides, which I know is a lot, and I'll go through them really quickly. And then as I go through them, we'll see what you're interested in, and then we have all of our teammates and experts here that we can bring down to the table to help answer questions if we need to do that. Yeah, it's a lot of slides. let's get started. So I'll go fast, council member. Thank you for having us. Let the first 10 slides are, and so we'll get through those really fast. They are just a reminder of how recovery was born from response and a desire to be more resilient. You guys know about the debris transfer that's going on right now. I'm happy to say that we're at 50% almost today, which is ahead of schedule. You folks know about the restoration work that's going on out there today. I'm happy to dig into all this stuff, but really we're just showing what's happening in terms of the rebuild and the restoration. It can keep going. We all have heard all about housing, both on the temp side, that's the left side, and on the permanent side. The point here is that we're engaging in the permanent side. We're working with our partners at the state and at the federal level for the temp side, and that plan to get from temp to permanent is where we're really focusing in on. While we're doing that, we're planning for our future. You folks have heard a lot about the long-term recovery plan. You can see it on My Recovers now, and there'll continue to be engagements just like you see here for all the planning efforts. We'll dive into that in just a little bit. But to understand where recovery needs to go, we need to understand the need. And when we look at the overall need, of course, we're already talking about housing, but we can't talk about housing without talking about infrastructure. And right behind that, if not alongside it, is economic development. And then what public services do we need to recover from? And what public services do we need to add to? Asking all those questions. This is a chart straight out of the action plan. We've presented this before. This really just shows that we have a $6.8 billion basically unmet need across the board. Next slide. And we need to make that transition from temp to permanent. This is the latest statistics from the individual assistance that FEMA and the state is given. So I won't dwell on this. This is their stats, but hundreds of families still remain in a temporary situation. We all know that. These slides have been updated. This is as of the couple days ago. I'm happy to report the permits completed. I think it's up to 50 now on the website. And I think we're at 280 on homes constructed. If you've been to Lahaina recently, it's really hopeful. Next slide, please. This is a different way to look at it. I don't think we've shared this one before, at least not in front of you folks. We've taken some of this to the community meetings, but if you're curious how the numbers look visually in Lahaina, everything that's green is an issued permit. We talk a lot about infrastructure and how we restore things, but I just wanted to hit on a few highlights that are happening in Lahaina town. The first slide we have here are all of the projects that DEM is currently working on in and around Lahaina. A lot of it has to do with R1, a lot of it has to do with the pump stations and fixing the system that they had or expanding services. It's not meant to be a detailed review, it's just a visual of what's happening. These are the Department of Water Supply and projects. They have, I see we have water supply here today, so if we have questions on that, we can bring them down too. I'm sure Kimo would be happy to do that. But these are a list of their projects and everything that's going there. And then this final one, you got to kind of zoom into town, but public works projects are mostly related to roadway connectivity projects, restoration projects, some work on Front Street that you already saw pictures of. That's all those projects. We've been coordinating with our departments from day one, and we continue to do so. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the future. Just to show everyone how recovery is interacting overall with the county. We good? So am I going too fast? Okay. Let's see if we can go through 50 slides really fast. This is just all the projects at once with some zoning overlays and some project overlays. So what we're doing is we're coordinating amongst all the housing projects, all the infrastructure projects, looking at the interplay between how one water line might interact with a project that could go. That's really what this is all about. And looking at housing. How do we support housing? They are kind of boring engineering meetings, but they're fun if you're in them. Public Works has been, I came from Public Works, so I'm partial to them. Jordan and his team are doing a great job out there. This highlights, like, if you go back once, just, if you can go back one. The picture of the guy, yeah, that's one of the Lahaina guys, but they're protecting near the ocean right there. And right after the response, Public Works spent an enormous amount of time doing just this. And recently we were able to see some of the damage in California, and they didn't quite get to it the same way we did. I'm just really happy to report Public Works jumped in right after, and they continue to do so to this day. Mike Tejada and his crew. So just wanted to give a shout out to those guys. Next slide. Sorry for the delay. I think everyone probably knows what this picture is, but this is the permanent debris site. We just wanted to highlight recovery's piece in that. We've been there all along the way working with Department of Environmental Management to make this become a reality. I mean, they're doing the heavy lifting. We're working to make sure that that happens. And like I said earlier, they're approaching 50% moved from temp to permanent. Keep going. Water supply, they've to date, I think replaced over 650 of those laterals and meters that were from the destroyed units. And so they're caught up and they're ready to meet the demand for rebuild. So anytime someone needs a service connection, they're out there. It's just a matter of just a few days at this point for them to meet the demand of the rebuild. They did all that work the last 2 years to get there. They literally flushed and cleaned every line, cut every lateral, thousands, and now they're putting it all back. Most of it's back, it's entirely functional, and then they have their next big project that is starting right now to increase capacity and make sure that fire flow demands are met across all of Lahaina Town. So it's a very quick overview of recovery's role with our infrastructure departments and some of the other efforts that's happening across the board. Now we're moving into Ho'okumuho. This is the DR program that also falls under the Office of Recovery. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. The idea, of course, is restoring community and building our future. So when you look at the DR program, we started back in February and March when we did the action plan. We came and talked about that. We did those meetings. We edited the action plan, submitted it, met those deadlines for HUD. HUD approved the action plan. That's the baseline for the program. Every grantee out of the overall 12-point-something billion that was given to 40-some other communities, they all had to do that. And what Josiah was saying in terms of where we are in the process, we're out front. We're right out there. We're number one in terms of the first-time grantees, and we're right on the heels of the folks that have been doing this for years, like Florida, for example. So the grant agreement was done in June, and we set this date of August 11th very aggressively, I might add, so that we could start to get to the point of actually helping people get home. We can't actually start taking intake until we go through all this other stuff that's on the left. So these people behind you have been working incredibly hard to get us to that point. Next slide, please. This is just a reminder of the breakdown from the 1.6. We're focusing on the top line there, that 900 million block, and within that block there are several subcategories. And we'll talk more about the others here just in a little bit. But with the housing one, we're kicking off the single family homeowner. So that's someone that lost their home, owned the land, and just can't figure out how to start. So it's a kupuna, and we've had them come up to our meetings and say, I don't know where to start. That program is for them. We're gonna help them get back home. And we're not gonna ask them to manage the construction. We're not gonna ask them to figure out the details, none of that. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna put a home on that property. So there's a group that'll qualify for that. We're really excited about that program. There are.
Just wanted to clarify,
Sure.
it's not only kupuna, it's anyone that
Oh, yeah,
hasn't
no,
started.
I'm sorry. I was just giving you an example, but if you're kupuna, you do get preference. Yeah. So, in that single-family homeowner reconstruction program, during the action plan process, we had a lot of folks come up and say, well, what if I already started? How can I participate? And the simple answer is, you can't unless you finish your project. So we created a reimbursement program. So those that can start and finish, that are eligible, they'll come back and get a check at the end of the project, not in the middle. And then the next problem is, well, what if I'm not done? How long can you keep the application period open? So that we are working through that right now in terms of a real solution for those that are likely to fall in the reimbursement category. So we'll extend the deadline for application so that we can pull those folks into this program and assist them on the back end of their project. If you have to remember, we got these funds way late, 2 years almost after the incident. Normally you get the funds a lot quicker, so these things will be stood up quicker. We're accommodating the need. So everywhere we see the need and where we're gonna have eligible folks, we're gonna jump into that. Then, to get to the affordability, long-term affordability of the community, we know that there is a high percentage of renters. We're developing a program just for first-time home buyers. It's complementary to a lot of our other first-time home buyer programs that the county already runs. It'll have a DR feel, a CDBG DR feel, but that program is meant to help as many renters become owners as we can and keep those properties affordable long-term. So I'll add all that in. It's a big deal. It's something HUD really hasn't done before. We're really pushing the envelope, but we think it's necessary to do that. In December, we're gonna work on rolling out new programs. So we're gonna go beyond all the homeowner stuff is gonna be rolling, and we're gonna start rolling out new programs. Those are infrastructure programs, public facility programs, multifamily housing reconstruction programs. And then in 26, we'll be into the economic revitalization world where we'll put out RFPs for folks to join in with us to help bring things back on the economic side. So that's just a really quick overview. So we'll be back to talk about that stuff. Today we were just focusing on the first 3 programs that are launching. Along with all of those things, there's also the $213 million set aside for mitigation, and mitigation is a pretty broad term. So we'll use mitigation funds to help things become more resilient, more fireproof, other issues where we can help with infrastructure in a different way to come back stronger, moving lines, all the stuff that we talk about all the time. That's where that fund will come in. So it's not a program, but it's a pot where we can start to work that in and fill some gaps where we have gaps. Okay, we good? Keep going. Okay, the individual housing programs, I just went through them again. This just lists the three separately and with some nice pictures, but single-family homeowner, reconstruction, single-family home reimbursement program, and then the first-time home buyer opportunity program. Next slide, please. Stop saying but how do you pay for all this stuff outside of DR? So DR is, I said early on, we have almost a $7 billion gap. DR is only 1.6 billion. Where's the rest of it come from? And I want to talk about that now. We know that the big gap in the big projects are usually infrastructure projects, so we're zeroing in on those first. And when we look at the overall problem, no matter how we stack all the possible funding scenarios, there's always a gap at the top. Is that a siren we need to worry about? No.
No, we don't need to worry about that. Sorry.
Okay. I know this is just like a pretty bucket picture, but I think this example works. So what you're seeing on the right is, we have the DR funds, that's the top bucket. We have all these other federal and state funding programs. We don't want to forget about the state. And then we have our own uncommitted funds. When I say uncommitted, that means it's like on the 6-year CIP, but maybe it's not in that year yet. So we know those are likely to come, but we're not counting them in this bucket yet. And then we have the committed county funds, the ones we know we have, where you folks have gone through the budget process, and that's the budget. So that's that bottom one. So we have the bottom one, we have the top one, we still have a gap. Next slide, please. And from what we know, and when we look at the overall funding need for infrastructure, and we'll talk about it in a second, out of that almost 7 billion, 1.9 billion of it is infrastructure. So if you imagine this bucket is 1.9 billion, we know we can get to around 30% of that right now. Still have a pretty big problem, 70%. We have an entire group of folks that are working on a funding strategy to fill that gap. So the next slide. This is what we've identified so far. So the really hopeful news is we've found pathways and federal programs across the board that can get us like almost a 90% of filling that bucket over the next, say, 10 years. That doesn't mean it would be easy. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Please don't hear me say we figured out the budget gap. I'm not saying that. But what we're saying is we are looking in every single federal program that's possible and have formed a team that doesn't do it on our own, works with the departments, works with water supply, works with DEM, works with public works, works with our ag department, all those other programs to multiply our efforts, and then where we can, and you guys remember DR is the funding of last resort, fill in the PUCAs so that we can make it complete. So I wanted to highlight that for you guys to understand that what we're working on in the background. We have an entire presentation just for that. And there's some of the people in the room are working on it. If you have questions on it, we can bring them down. We're really excited about it, though. You may be able to tell. And then next slide. Long-term recovery plan kind of guides this effort. It's our roadmap. You can look at it that way. All the work that Jen did, Jen was the first recovery office employee. She's sitting up there. She's been working on this longer than I have. This document is a living document, but it's also a roadmap. So when you jump into it, you can look at all of those projects and initiatives, and that's what we're doing, and we're figuring out which ones can we do now, which one's midterm, which one's long-term. And it gives us a roadmap to how that works. The Rebuild Lahaina plan and all the community engagement efforts that we've done under that plan, this one, is just one project in that bigger plan. That's just like, that's the point of this slide, basically. We're just doing that one project. And what we found from that project is that in the commercial area, the folks need a little bit more certainty on some design standards and some design guidelines. So that's what we're focusing on, trying to produce something yet this year from this project so that people have more certainty in the commercial areas. But it's more than just providing certainty. It's taking all of the plans that have been done in Lahaina, coalescing them into one group, and then working together with projects like the Royal Complex. So that's another project. It's a big project. It's being led by OEV Resources. Recovery is not leading that project, but we're working hand in hand with it and making sure that as it moves forward, it aligns with the rest of the work that is being done in the planning process. And we don't have overlap, and we actually, not that we don't have overlap, we actually combine efforts and make it even better. So I'm not going to talk about this project because it's not ours, but we just wanted to show how they're connected. Next slide. Same thing with Public Works, and I'm nearing the end, so hold on just a little bit longer. Public Works, their role in this is the street side. And we know that the disaster showed us all the places where we need to make connections. The connections is what they're working on. This is just one example of one of those street connection projects that is moving forward in Kahua Street. We can list all the rest of the projects, but this is just an example. Everywhere that has been recommended to make a connection, they're pursuing the land rights, buying the property, doing the design, and then looking short-term, long-term too on those. So some of them are happening right now, just so we can get the connection made so people can get in and out where they need to. Others are the longer-term transportation projects that now have a much greater chance of becoming reality. If we can go to the next one, because of how we're looking at the funding strategies. So that's the West Maui Greenway. It recently received a $15.3 million raised grant. That's not enough to do everything, but it's a great start for that greenway, and we're going to focus in on the section within the disaster area. And if they have a gap of funding, we're going to fill the gap so that they can become a reality. Lahaina Harbor restoration, we put it up because it's such a big deal. We know this is a state project. This is not a county project, but we just want you to know that we're advocating on behalf of the county. Wherever they need help, we want to try and help as much as we can with the restoration of the harbor. And then, this feels like a lot of things. We recognize the need for a more comprehensive strategy with water. We talk about water a lot in here too, and there's maybe some disconnectedness, and what we're trying to do from a recovery standpoint, and we are not trying to tackle water for the entire county. This is disaster-focused one water strategies in Lahaina. So we're focusing in on all the players that have anything to do with water, stormwater, wastewater, groundwater, R1, nearshore waters. This is in Moku'ula, but there's, lots and lots of examples of that. We think there are strategies out there if we work together to help water move in the right direction, say it that way. And we're engaging with that from a recovery standpoint and also keeping our eye on the housing crisis. We can't easily buy property. You guys get involved with that with us all the time. So we recognize the need for some assistance. We have retained the Trust for Public Land to help us with that. So they are on Team Recovery now. They're under contract. We came in and did an amendment for that not that long ago. But I just want to let you folks know, like, when it comes to increasing green space, park space, access and mobility, stuff that's coming out of the long-term recovery plan work, recoveries using the land trust Land Trust, the Trust for Public Land, same words, for those, to help us with those projects, because just title work alone for just one piece of property is significant. And we know we can't do it, so we're getting some help for that. We're also going to be lacing in their work with the DR work, and that goes along with the DR mitigation set aside. So you can use some mitigation funds to do some property acquisition. So we have the folks that are helping us do the deals, and then we have the money on the other side, all under one roof. We're really excited about that. Public Works it's doing its own, but with us as well. So they're doing their street connection and their land acquisition based on their streets. We're doing the stuff that's related to green space. Next slide, please. Just to highlight some of the projects that we funded already and some of the groups. And I'm going to run around the room now. If you're wondering who's in the, who else is here, it's not often that all your consultants sit in a room together, so I'll take this opportunity to have our competitors look at each other, but no. You guys know Tetra Tech, you guys wave your hand, they're over there. So we may bring them down. If you have questions for FEMA or PA and reimbursement, that's what they're here for. We have Bowers and Kubota in the house. Right there, there's Kathleen. We've had Kathleen here before. They are on our Rebuild Lahaina team, and they're helping us with a few other things in recovery. Four Leaf, I'm not sure if they're in the house or not. We all know the Four Leaf name. Brown and Caldwell, I'm also not sure if they're in the house, but they are helping us with the One Water strategy. You've already heard Horn's name. They're in the back. If you guys want to raise your hand. That's our DR consultant. Stantec, Kim, where are you? And yeah, all there. They helped me put together the funding strategies. They're running our funding strategies group. Helene Cow on our team. You gotta raise your hand, Helene. She's helping both with Stantec and with Tetra Tech. I've already mentioned Trust for Public Land. And these are just the primes for these. So they all have sub-consultants that go along with this. So there's other folks in the room too that are subs. We're also happy to let you know Pa'akai is part of our DR team. And then we have CNHA in the house is also part of our DR work. That is as fast as I could ever do everything that we're doing right now. I hope it was fast enough. I just wanted to get through that so you understood like what we're working on. And it's not just me, it's this team behind you. I also want to point out, like, if you're just in-house recovery, not a consultant, can you raise your hand? So these are all county employees. And I am so proud of them. I might get emotional if I talk about them, but they are amazing. We have the best team on the planet here to help with recovery, and we're here to answer your questions. That's our presentation. It's not just the DR stuff. There's a lot more going on, but happy to stop talking. Very happy to stop talking and answer questions, and we can bring down whoever we need to for that. Thank you.
Thank you. So you didn't want to cover the public assistance, hazard mitigation, and disaster preparedness. There's about 12, 13 more.
Oh, jeez. I'm so sorry. If there's questions, yeah.
Oh, okay. So members, you would have this on your Granicus item. There's about 12 or 13 more slides that covers public assistance, hazard mitigation, and disaster preparedness, Kupuna resources, the MERC, and other things. So if you have questions, that's totally fine.
That felt like a really good place to stop the presentation, so we can pull those up when we answer questions.
Sounds good. And then the other point I wanted to make that John said that, we got the money a little bit late, and also there was no guarantee that we would be getting the money or how much we would be getting the money. So without knowing that, we did have to move forward with the permitting and all the other things too. So it seems kind of like there wasn't a big overall plan the day after the fire because there was a lot of unknowns. So at this time, I didn't read the testimony rules because that other guy's a regular and he knows all the rules. But for those that are wishing to give public testimony, written testimony is encouraged and can be submitted via the e-comment link at mauicounty.us agendas. Testifiers wanting to provide oral testimony should join the online meeting via the Microsoft Teams link printed on today's agenda or call into the phone number which is also on today's agenda. For individuals wishing to testify via Teams, please raise your hand by clicking on the raise your hand button near the top right of your screen. For those calling in, please follow the prompts via phone. Staff will add names to the testifier list in the order testifiers sign up or raise their hands. For those on Teams, staff will lower your hand once your name is added. Staff will then call the name you're logged in under or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it is your time to testify. At that time, staff will also enable your microphone and video. Please ensure your name on Microsoft Teams appears as the name you prefer to be referred to or as anonymous if you wish to testify anonymously. If you are in person, please notify staff that you would like to testify anonymously. Otherwise, please state your name for the record at the beginning of your testimony. Oral testimony is limited to 3 minutes. If you're still testifying beyond that time, I will kindly ask you to complete your testimony. Once you are done testifying, or if you do not wish to testify, you can view the meeting on Akaku Channel 53, Facebook Live, or mauicounty.us/agendas. At this time, we will call on testifiers wishing to testify on DRIP 9 per N4.
Thank you, Chair. Our first testifier is Jessica Kariam Stanley, to be followed by Ginger Prince.
Aloha mai kākou. My name is Jessica Kariam Stanley. I guess I am here to testify for the Lahaina Community Land Trust, as I am one of the recipients of the for the Keep Lahaina Home program. I am between me and my husband, we had 8 children. We have 6 grandchildren. And he passed away in 2021. So I am basically the matriarch of our family. And I was given this property by my mother-in-law, who's passed as well. And between her and her husband, her father also lived in the property. And so, you know, when it burned, we didn't know how we were gonna build it back. The home was built by my husband and his friends, and we built it for you know, half of what, actually less than half of what they're asking to rebuild it in 2007. And so it was, you know, it was a lot of praying and a lot of just asking for direction. And the Community Land Trust came up with this GAP program. Thankful to you folks for trusting them. And we were able to meet the gap. Today, I dropped off the first installment for the construction. I'm sorry, it's overwhelming because we're finally here. And so I dropped off the first check for the construction for the home. And really what it means to our family is, like, when I think about my kids or my grandkids or even the generations to come, it's like if any of them ever lost their way or they needed somewhere to come home to, they could come home to us. They could come home to this home that was protected. It's protected in perpetuity. It's protected forever. They would never fight about this. They would never fight about trying to see who owns the home because it will always be in our family. And I feel like that is why it was given to us. That's why the money is given to you. And that's our responsibility to steward these lands and to make sure that the community is protected and they always have somewhere to go. You know, I think about my kids and my kids' kids and that, you know, maybe one day my granddaughter wants to, you know, teach, and she will be able to afford to live somewhere where she can get a teacher's salary. Or my son who loves to fish, and he can go and fish for a living because that brings him joy, and he has somewhere to come home to, that he doesn't have to worry about it going up every year. But I just thank you for your time, and I thank you for the gift that you've given us, and mahalo nui.
Oh, members, any questions for the testifier?
No, we're good.
Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. If you can call for the next testifier.
Chair, the next testifier is Ginger Prince, to be followed by Marissa Castuera Hayase.
Aloha, my name is Ginger Prince, and I'm a longtime Lahaina resident and a kupuna advisor with the Community Land Trust. My interest in being here today is to see that any funds that help rebuild Lahaina are used in a way to bring our old Lahaina back. The true essence of Lahaina is its people, so we need to keep our people here long-term. So any expenditure has to look for the ongoing future of our people. The Land Trust is truly about keeping our people home here in Lahaina, helping them rebuild, and keeping these lands available for our future generations. The Insurance Gap Program is helping people that thought they had no hope start to rebuild. We need to rebuild Lahaina and ensure our lands will stay with Lahaina people. There is much community support in keeping our properties available for our children and grandchildren, and not have a home built that will be sold for millions a few years down the road. Locals cannot afford to buy these homes, and therefore they are lost to outside investors. The community supports rebuilding with a guarantee these will stay in Lahaina hands. The Land Trust is our guarantee. I have one more thing that's been on the back of my mind for a long time. And when I was asked to be an advisor, a kupuna advisor with the Land Trust, they had a lot of foresight in appointing senior advisors. If you look at Lahaina Luna's yearbook, class of '64, there were 2 haole kids in the school, my brother and I. So I became haole girl and he became haole boy. And there's people today over the last year and a half that have come up to me knowing I'm associated with the Land Trust. And they're trusting of me because we go back to the 60s. And they want to know, what's it about? Can it help them? They've got their parents' property or their property, and they don't know where to go. And they feel comfortable with coming to me, where I can be a pathway to introduce them to the girls. And I explained to them, this is all local families. This is the Wong girl, Naleha family, Kiahi family. They're all local. And you just see a wave of relief that they are being helped by Lahaina people, and we really are looking for the future. I'll shut up. Mahalo for your time.
Thank you, members. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. You can call the next testifier.
Chair, the next testifier is Marissa Castuera Hayase on Teams, to be followed by Craig.
Chair, we see her online, but she would have to unmute on her end. There we go.
Thank you for that. Aloha kako. My name is Marisa. I am the Vice President of Programs for the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation. We are a charitable foundation with a 30-year history of grant making. And through our offices in both Hawaii and Baltimore, we distribute approximately $150 million in grants per year across the United States to address poverty. by investing in the organizations that are helping people thrive, stay in their home communities, and build pathways to health, housing, and food security. We invest in the nonprofit organizations and leaders vital to our communities that will carry us forward in times of instability, especially. I want to share why we are an early donor to Lahaina Community Land Trust. After 30 years of providing funding and housing, several years ago, we committed specifically to funding community land trusts and similar models for community ownership or community wealth building that prevent resident displacement. Why we have committed specifically to land trusts is because we've seen enough evidence over decades about what works. Community-driven efforts that preserve affordable housing for generations. Projects that have the potential for replication or expansion and enable residents to live and thrive in their home communities, again, for generations, not 15 years or 20 years. We are investing in Lahaina Community Land Trust because of the successful history of land trusts across the United States. And we've learned about them over the years through national networks like Grounded Solutions Network, which works across the US, connecting local experts with the support they need to implement housing solutions that will stay affordable for generations. And the California Land Trust Network, which has 25 years of history in California and in building the sophisticated and community-serving legal, governance, and tax structures that will preserve affordable housing in perpetuity. We've actually contracted California Land Trust Network also to work with a cohort of organizations here in Hawaii. And it's California Land Trust Network that helped inspire the Common Council Foundation's Community Ownership Fund in California, where funders and donors came together to create a community-governed 100 million capital fund to support community ownership at scale. They dismantle structural barriers that have historically excluded communities and their housing security. And these are barriers like so far in 2025, investors have purchased approximately 30% of both existing and newly built single-family homes in the United States. And this is the highest share on record. So we know families are against a lot in the best of times. So back to why we're investing in LCLT. We give to land trust and community ownership models because they work across the United States, and that is one reason. The other reason is that we need those land trusts and community ownership models to work locally, to make sure that local residents are included in the future of Hawaii. LCLT is effective, accountable, community-embedded leadership. After decades of watching what has made government and philanthropic capital successful, we know the secret ingredient is that the funds are directed by people that have intergenerational commitment to place. We did a first grant of $25,000 to LCLT, and last year a grant of $1 million. We helped bring other funders together, including from California, to collectively fund $3 million to help LCLT leverage wonderful county funds. I want to thank the council for all of the support of community in response to community input. We are just one of many institutions and orgs that care deeply about rebuilding Lahaina with community leaders at the center, guiding our way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Can you call the next testifier?
Chair, the next testifier is Craig on Teams, to be followed by the Royal House of Hawaii.
Craig, if you want to press the little microphone button, you can unmute and begin your testimony. Should be in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, aloha, my name is Craig Hayase, and just want to thank the county council and everybody involved with with getting the grant. It's just, just getting our family back together, keeping my family together. This is a way, to ensure that, my kids, my grandkids, my great granddaughter also, has a place to stay. And I just appreciate the county council and, everybody involved on Lahaina, Lahaina Community Land Trust and lending to getting us over this bridge. We're going to probably be starting rebuilding our home September 1st. So just want to thank everybody. It's a big step for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hayase. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. You can call the next testifier.
Chair, the last individual signed up is the Royal House of Hawaii.
Aloha, this is the Royal House of Hawaii and an alorio land tenant of Hewa Hewa, Helu 3237, Royal Patent, Real Property 7447, and I'm testifying on if any of the descendants of the Royal Patents were contacted. For example, we're Ohana of the Royal family, and what is going to happen with the cultural site over there. That had one puck on top of our grandma guy's hale over there. And as descendants of the Royal Patents of over there also were affected. I mean, like, we're never gonna, like, because it belongs to the land, the Royal Patent descendants forever. Like, we're not gonna remove these people from where they grew up and everything. Heck no, crazy. But we just want say and say on what's going to be happening to the lands, because like we need to restore the ahupua'a for real, like to call in back the water. You know what I mean? And yeah, even with like even with weather, like there's no I mean, it's up to you guys. Take this with a grain of salt. Like, there's no climate change. Like, we had 103-degree weather in 1800s. Free the water, bro. For real, cuz. But, and called the descendants of the Royal Patents and the Alorio land titles, the original meets and bounds of Ko Hawaii Pai Aina, which could never be changed because once the original meets and bounds are created, of the country cannot be changed. So please look at the titles of those meets and bounds, which are the Royal Patents, aka Palapala Sila Nui. Mahalo.
Thank you, members. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. You can call the next testifier.
Chair, that's all the individuals that have signed up to testify. We can do a last call for oral testimony. If there's anyone else who would like to testify, please come down to the podium or raise your hand on Teams.
Thank you. I see Mr. Buchanan.
Bachman. That's right.
Sorry, my bad.
Council members, my name is Matt Bachman, Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity Maui. I'm just here to not only support the Land Trust, but to also let you guys know that we also have our own disaster recovery program. And every Monday morning, I meet with the Land Trust, Hawaii Community Lending, and the Long-Term Recovery Group, and we talk about families specific for an hour and a half of every family that we are going to be able to help. We have a grant program. We also are rebuilding houses right now in Lahaina. And we've helped 7 families get back to their house in Lele through our funding. And so this partnership has been amazing. I'm excited to work with the Office of Recovery to see if we can get some of that DR money as well. And we're gonna find a way to get people back in their homes. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bachman. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Chair, we have one more that signed up on Teams, Nestor Ugale.
Mr. Ugale, You can unmute and begin your testimony.
I gotta lower my hand first. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are doing great on your end. Kind of just jumping on real quick and kept it on and listened to the presentations. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you guys, thank the council for entrusting true Lahaina leaders to take care of our people. In providing, one piece of the puzzle of keeping our community whole. And it's, I think Carolyn said the word that resonated most with me today is the word holistic. You guys have an amazing job in the constituency that put you guys into the places that you are of influence. Really trust you guys to look at us as a whole and to make decisions that are hard, and not to make a decision for one person over another. And although we realize that this might not be the end-all, be-all solution to everything, what the Lahaina Community Land Trust has done successfully is to take care of a particular portion of the population that is generational, that really takes care of the soul of what being from Lahaina means and is. And if there's anything left that, just speaking from my heart, I have nothing prepared other than there's this idea, right? We have to look out for the interests of everybody. And sometimes the interests of one family over another may be generational, one might be transactional. And so that's kind of the ends of the spectrum that you guys have to think about. There's tax money, there's all those things to consider. It's been really hard for me personally to come forward as a Filipino in our community. I'm not Kanaka. I don't have ties to this place forever, but we've been here and enjoyed, multiple generations here on this land. And I just want to say something that, is really scary to a lot of people is just the whole idea of gentrification and being pushed out of a place. I was displaced out of Lahaina, and I say that with the pre-fire, right? Economically, I'm not able to stay in the place that I love so much. And so I now live in beautiful Wai'ehu, and they take care of me over there too, but my heart still belongs to Lahaina, and I want to be there so bad. And I'll still be here, and hopefully my children can too. I guess what I'm trying to say is the view from an immigrant community is vast. There's some who have found themselves to be generational, and then some who just may not. But all of these initiatives that are happening and people like Lahaina Community Land Trust, what they're looking out for is to shift the paradigm for people who don't see this place as a permanent place for them. And this type of movement is going to help to steward a mentality shift of care for community that's going to take care of not just the next 1, 2, 3 generations, but for the next 7. And I just want to also thank the leaders of the Lahaina Community Land Trust for fostering a bigger, broader, more inclusive sense of community that we all want to be so part of. So, mahalo for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ugali. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. I did have a request for a quick bio break. Is there any objection, or is there more testifiers?
That's also, we can do the last call and close testimony.
We will have to start a little discussion. Can members hang in there, or do you want to do the recess now? Can, okay. Yeah, last call.
Okay, this is the last call for oral testimony. Please come up to the podium or raise your hand on Teams. The countdown is 3, 2, 1. Seeing none, Chair, no one has indicated that they wish to testify.
Members, any objection to closing public testimony and accepting written testimony into the record?
No objections.
Thank you. Public testimony is closed, and we'll start off discussion by raise of hand, and then we'll take a recess after the first discusser. Anyone want to discuss or ask questions? Member Sugimura.
Just a quick one, that the powerful testimony we heard, I want to thank the people who came to testify about the Lahaina Community Land Trust, such a success. And I just want to start this by saying that, you know, if we can, I would love to see this also for upcountry. I think I did talk to Carolyn before. Any comment, and then we can take our break.
Ms. Nakata, is that sufficient? Do you want Ms. Carolyn to respond? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Alveloa.
Aloha. Thank you, Councilperson Sugimura, for the question. This can absolutely be a reality for any community. And I guess I would say that the starting point would be in the community, the folks that see this vision and want to make it happen, begin those early conversations. And as community people, they will likely have the best understanding of the challenges, threats, risks in their place. How we started literally was right after the fire, and knowing what the risks were and researching what a community land trust is and how it works. The Grounded Solutions Network that Marisa Hayase mentioned is an invaluable resource. And the Aina cohort that they've organized is ongoing now, but opportunities like that to learn are also really, really helpful. I would recommend communities that are thinking about this to start the conversations in whatever that looks like. For us, it happened under tents at recovery hubs. But for communities that are maybe not in a post-disaster, it might look like community meetings if they have a community association, or other types of orgs that are started, or starting, you know, that conversation over a dinner table or picnic table. But it's got to start there. The community has to be behind it, has to understand it, and want it. And then anything is possible. So we are happy we've helped communities begin these conversations as far away as Altadena. And we absolutely are willing to share our story, our resources, the things we've developed with communities that are interested, and really encourage more communities in Hawaii to really think about this, because these types of opportunities to get Aina into community stewardship has to be stewarded by community. And that community has to be people that are really rooted and invested in their community for the right reasons. And so, yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Would you add anything? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With no further question, let's take a recess to 3:20. Okay. Committee's in recess to 3:20. The time is 3:26, and will the DRIP committee return to order? Our committee vice chair, Nohe Hodgins, had to be excused, but she did want her questions to be answered, and so I will be asking them for her. We do have a full quorum, but some members' cameras just aren't on yet. But the questions from Committee Vice Chair Hodgins is for the Land Trust. And the first question is, what is the criteria to qualify for the Land Trust? Or qualify for the programs, I think.
I can answer that in a couple of different ways. For the Keep Lahaina Home program, you just have to be an owner occupant whose home was destroyed in the fire. That's it. Depending on which bucket of funding we pull from, you may have to meet certain AMI requirements, but not all of our funding has AMI requirements. Thank you very much for seeding this current year. That's going to allow us to help folks on the upper levels of the AMI that won't qualify for DR funding. So really, really thank you. As far as the programs where we buy the land, build the house, and then sell the house to a resident, you also have to be fire affected. But if you were a renter, or if your primary residence was destroyed in the fire, you can enter the lottery. Also, depending on the unit and the funding that was used to build that unit, there may or may not be AMI requirements. And then we will do the lottery as designated by Bill 111. So we will enter everybody into the lottery, draw a group of names, and then rank them according to time lived in West Maui. We also, not all homes, but a certain portion of the homes will be reserved for important workforce folks, including, to be determined, but including teachers, Kaiapuni teachers, reforestation experts, water experts, stuff like that. But that'll be all determined per funding. So I think that's the best answer I can give.
Thank you. And then the second question, I didn't write it down verbatim, but I think it's basically like, how do you choose? Like, obviously the need is greater than $6 billion. So how do you choose, I think was the second question.
So far, for our Keep Lahaina Home programs, we haven't had to choose. We've been able to help everyone that has come through the pipeline that has a need that we can help with. We've been able to pair them with those resources. So that's great. And we're so grateful, because again, this is only possible because of the great partnership that we have. So thank you. When it comes to choosing homeowners, as she just explained, it'll be a lottery process. And the qualifications are going to be like she described. Yeah.
We haven't had to choose because we have people that believe so deeply in this work. The minute I think we're out of money, we get more money. It's really magic. We've been in this position a couple of times. We've got client applications on the table, and I don't know how we're going to pay for this. And then we get a call from an anonymous donor that wants to donate $3 million. And before that money even hits our bank account, we know exactly where it's going. Money in, money out, money in, money out. And it's so, yeah.
And because the need is so great, we, as long as they all qualify. And so it's almost on a first come, first served basis. And we're trying to just keep that pipeline flowing, and we meet with funders whenever we get the chance, and we try to let people know that this is a way to help, especially if they're folks that can't fit other programs. There's a lot of funders out there that are wanting to help in ways that maybe other programs can't. And so we're happy to be a connector for those types of resources to these types of families. And then the reassurance that they have that this is going to have a long-term benefit is really appealing to a lot of folks.
And sorry, the last thing I'll say is this is another really big shout out to the partners that we are and we're going to continue to lean on. We know that the DR funding is only going to go so far. We know that a lot of people aren't going to meet the qualifications because of their AMI or the section of the process in the build that they are. And so we really, we're committing and we're relying on maintaining really close relationships with the DR team, with CNHA, the intake people, like all this stuff so that when people are doing intakes, they know right away, oh, this person might not qualify for this program, let's kick them over to here. The partnerships are everything.
Basically, it all starts with an intake. Okay, I see Chair Lee had her hand up.
Thank you. I'm so happy to hear of your successes. And as you know, the county council was early on invested $10 million, and whatever else we can do on an ongoing basis, we're right there with you. I just want you to know that. But for a question for John. See, John, I think we have a lot of questions for them because they're showing results already. And that's the kind of things that we look to you for. You have a great plan and a great strategy and a lot of resources and wonderful people behind you. But can we have some specific numbers that, what are your objectives for this year and next year and how? And then one of the major obstacles, of course, is water. So before we can have housing, we need water. So is that at the top of your priority? And are you confident that we can overcome these major obstacles with water?
Yeah, those are really great questions. And I do expect as we have progress with the DR fund programs for us to come back regularly to give reports on our progress. So we just started, so we don't have the same numbers to shout out yet. We do have the August 11th. That's where we're going to start. But we are focusing in on water. When you looked at the slides, the One Water strategy is focused on this. The other programs related to infrastructure and housing have a huge water focus. So we meet with anyone involved with water regularly. My office is right next door to Shane Agawa's. Talk to him all the time about R1 in particular. Chemo's in my office a lot. All our discussions are about how do we make sure that if we're going to increase the housing stock, that we're going to have the water available without hurting the aquifer. So, I mean, that's the basic look at it. I do have an advantage in being an engineer and working in this field for a long time, so we jump straight into the technical conversations, but our focus, I can tell you, is water and housing, and those two are inextricably.
John, I'm just going to interrupt you.
Okay.
We're not looking at hurting any aquifer. We're looking at R1 water. We're looking at conservation, making the uses per household realistic. Instead of 500, maybe it should be 300, gallons per day. And stormwater, your area of expertise. All these other options, we have to stop looking at them and make them start working. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Mr. Nishita?
Chair, if I may just one additional comment on that. I just wanted to highlight the first 3 programs coming out through DR are, single family reconstruction, a reimbursement program, and first time home buyer. These are all properties that already have water allocations to them. So I just wanted to assure the council that, yes, we are looking to, develop, new sources or new strategies and whatnot to provide for new housing to be developed, but the first programs being implemented do already have allocations to those properties. Thank you.
And applications open August 11th. It'll be open for 6 months, correct?
Well, we're already talking about extending that.
Okay.
So
Minimum 6 months.
Minimum 6 months is what I would say.
Okay.
And the reason for that, and I'll just hit on it one more time, is, you know, you made a really good point earlier in that we need to be able to pivot enough to meet people in this reimbursement program, because there's a lot of people that already started, and it's really, really hard for HUD to get involved in a construction project that already started. There are a ridiculous number of things that you have, check boxes that you have to do. Environmental reviews is one. I know this is a long-winded answer, but I just want to explain it to everyone. We're trying really hard to get involved in the beginning and in the end of the projects, and then work with our partners in the middle that are outside of DR, so that we can come in and help on the back end as well. So that's the strategy on that particular piece. Thank you.
And to clarify, when you say at the beginning, before you even have plans, because the home reconstruction, you choose from plans. So majority of people who are applying for permits, that wouldn't be home reconstruction. If they're in the process of building, that wouldn't be the home reconstruction. If they want to abandon the plans that they're working on and move to you, at what point would they make that call? Would they secure your funding before they abandon their plans, right?
Well, that's going to be their choice, of course, but we want to get them to the point of having a choice. So that's why it's so important to apply. We don't want to make the barrier the intake process itself. We want you to come in and apply, even if you don't fit neatly in the boxes that we've described in those 3 programs. Please come apply anyway. And we'll get into more detail. We'll talk about it in additional webinars, and we'll have additional education. But we're actually tailoring our intake process for all these exceptions, so that if you're in an exception scenario, you're going to go to a different part of the portal in the intake process, and then you'll have a chance to weigh it all out and decide. It doesn't happen overnight, it takes time, but that's the idea.
And there is a possibility, like say you have 500 specific intake special circumstances that are similar, you might be able to pivot a program to fit that 500.
Yeah, and we can call down our partners to talk about this more and what they've seen in other programs if you want to have that discussion. But essentially, HUD says, do your action plan, do the best job you can at setting the program up, start. After you've started the program, you've got all the data in, and the need changes. If the need's significant enough, you can come back to us and pivot again and create a brand new program. That's been done in most of the programs, and we are willing to do that. But right now, what we're saying is we have to start these programs.
Thank you. Members? Member Rollins Fernandez, and there is a 4-minute clock going, and I did see Member Sinensi's up. So, and we can go as long as members want to.
Okay, mahalo, Chair. And mahalo for letting me know how much time we have. Okay, so the agenda item today is Maui's long-term recovery operations, which includes all the funding and the programs. This Friday, August 8th, marks the 2 years since the fire, and we're talking about DR money. I'd love for our committee to also be able to get a review on all the donations that was received from Hawaii Community Foundation on the Maui Strong Fund. A lot of folks online have been confusing Lahaina Strong with the Maui Strong Fund and accusing them of mismanaging close to $180 million. So at some point, if we could have that discussion in this committee, that would be amazing. Okay, so aloha, Managing Director, Director Smith, mahalo for being with us, and mahalo for all the calls that you made to me to get me up to speed, to help me understand the discussions that are happening and the decisions that are being made regarding the details of the programs, the reconstruction reimbursement, and first-time home buyers that are being launched on Monday. Okay, so dovetailing off of Chair's questions regarding the 6 months. So in that 6-month time, folks that would be applying would just have to wait, and that, okay, you're shaking your head, so I'll stop there and let you explain to me.
We have a significant allotment, so we can help quite a few people. And those that are eligible in that first 6-month period, we expect to still have funds remaining after the 6 months. So in general, we're not gonna, once someone's eligible and we have their path set, we will start issuing, I think, what's called award letters. So those things will happen concurrently while we continue to look at the overall problem and whether or not we need to pivot. So we're not gonna make people wait if they're eligible.
Okay, because on a last phone call that we had, what you explained to me was that it would be by highest need, so lowest AMI first, and I don't understand how that would be achieved if while accepting applications to the program, you're simultaneously awarding money for reconstruction or reimbursement or first-time home buyers. So if the intention is to ensure that the applicants with the greatest need receive, the money first before it's expended by those that have less need, then how would that determination be made if you're awarding the money while still accepting applications?
Yeah, it's just that there's a limited pot of potential applicants that we know from the data, so that we know that we're not overextending ourselves in terms of what goes out first. So there's pots of money that'll be there for those lower income groups. So we'll go through the whole list, and then we'll still have money left to make sure that we get through that list over time. That's a simple answer, but I'm happy to bring down the consultants to help me answer that question if you want more details.
Okay, yeah, I guess I would have expected a slide that kind of showed that, so we can kind of see that there is a plan.
Okay.
And then I wouldn't have had to ask the question. Also, we talked about the deed restrictions, the duration for the funding. Do you have an update on that?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councilmember Fernandez, for the question. We did go to the community and talk with the community about, some, I guess, proposals or, options on the table. We did get community feedback. We're in the process of kind of digesting all the feedback that was received. We're evaluating, still to this day, I think we just got the award in I think we signed the contract in June or July. So, we're building the plane while flying it at the same time. And so, we're going through the policies, the regulations for all the programs to make sure that, we're going to meet federal guidelines that, whatever types of additional protections or other measures that, is associated with the funding, that it will ensure that we remain compliant and that, we don't jeopardize any future funding, allocations and or our current allocation. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Chair. In my next round, I'd like to know what date the administration expects to know when the deed restrictions would be set. And then I'd like the details on the AMI levels and the amount that's, it looks like Managing Director wants to answer now.
Chair, I'll just say to meet our August 11th deadline for the start of kind of intake and eligibility, we will have to present to the community this Saturday all of the program details and whatnot. And I believe that's going to be held at 2 p.m. Online, virtual, yes, on Saturday. So part of, what we'd love to hear from today too is if council members have any feedback or anything as to things that should be, thought about in any of the programs or any of our operations or projects, we can take that into consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo, Managing Director. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Member Sinensi?
Hello, Chair. First off, I just wanted to express my sincere gratitude to everyone here. You know, all of your personal sacrifices, you guys' hard work, your commitment to your community, it's been really impressive. All of the staff, the county workers, Lahaina Community Land Trust, including yourself, Chair, and all the personal sacrifices you've made. Our partner agencies, it's been a Herculean effort, and it really shows true. So I'm hoping that maybe this Friday, as you guys enjoy all of the ceremonies, that we get to personally thank each and every one of you during kind of some time off for and for some reflection. So thank you for that, Chair.
Thank you, Member Sinensi, and I just wanted to mention that Autumn has been a real driver behind this, and she can explain how she was able to work on it the first year.
Thank you for that opportunity, Chair. Little known fact, I was working for Councilmember Johnson when the fire happened on housing and ag policy. And, you know, our agenda on August 7th, 2023 went out the window the day that this whole thing happened. And my new directive from Councilmember Johnson was to figure out what Lahaina needs as a representative of his office, to figure out what Lahaina needs. And this is what Lahaina needed. And so I was able to, on his office's behalf, listen to the community and hear their concerns, and go back and research what a community land trust could look like. Could we even do this in a post-disaster situation? Could we do it in a way that reflects the values of the Hawaiian community? And then I quit. Because what I thought was we were going to build this community land trust and then hand it over to somebody, to a Lahaina leader. And I was asked to step into that position, and so I'm really sorry, Gabe. But the only way that this even happened was because as Gabe's staff, I was able to be present for the Lahaina community for the better part of the rest of that, for you know, into that year and into 2024. So this is really a spinoff of Councilmember Johnson's office. Thank you.
Member Johnson?
I'm not crying, you're crying. Thank you for that. I had questions, but you know, it's what was needed, and that's all that mattered, you know. So thank you. You know, grabbing the bull by the horns is what Autumn does. And when we got a lot of problems, we need a lot of hammers, and she's one of them. So thank you, Autumn, for all that you do. I appreciate that recognition. But I do want to ask some questions since everybody's here. And Autumn, because you guys do so well, I don't have any questions. Oh, I do have one. But you know, most of the time I'm just like, look at her go. Just watch them go. You know, what do you do? So the person who came and testified, I forget her name, but she said
Jessica.
Thank you. She the one who gave the money to you guys. How important was the county funds to make it so that other people would come and kind of validify or just kind of give you guys that clout to make it work?
It's everything. There are whole manuals written on a national level about how important municipal partnerships are to the success of a community land trust. It's like this important trifecta: municipal support, really strong community leadership, and the community land trust. Like those three things go together. And so there's no way that this would have worked out in the way it did, at the scale it did, if the county had not committed. And Chair, you said that the county gave us $10 million. It was actually 15 the first year, and because it was in such this beautiful blend of affordable housing, open space, and managed retreat that it really set us off to the races. And we're just going to keep leveraging that, and we're going to make you guys in Lahaina proud.
So I guess that's a lesson, you know, come budget season, that's, you know, money well spent. So thank you for that.
Totally, we're at 30-something million, which is our goal as a collective is 200 million in order to stabilize Lahaina. And
I'm sure you'll reach that.
And
the
less
way
than
you
2
go.
years in, we're more than a tenth of the way there. So thank you for that.
Okay. So I have a question for the department, and of course, thank you guys for everything you do. On slide 19, the proposed water source north of Lahaina was Honolua H1 and Honolua H2. I assume that's new source. I know the water department's here. If you guys need to call on them, we certainly can. But can you give us a status update? And hopefully we can get new affordable housing projects north of Lahaina done. And is this part of that pathway forward?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. We're just calling our Deputy Director of Water Supply to come down, make sure giving you the correct information. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so H1 and H2 are both new wells. We're in the beginning stages of kind of determine the best place for the both of them.
Okay, in simple terms, so basically you're phase one or stage one or getting ready, so we don't have a timeline, we don't even know if there's water there,
We have a good idea that there's water there, but we're just, you know, in the first stage, so we got to say, this is where we want to drill it. We're going to get the hydrologists out there, look at it, and then we'll move from there.
Okay, is there a timeline?
Well, hopefully I think it's in FY26 to start, right? Okay, but to completion, that's still 4 or 5 years away.
All right, thanks for that clarification, really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, well, perfect timing. I have a second round, but thank you, Chair.
I think Member Cook is the only one that didn't have a first round.
Thank you, Chair. My question for recovery would be regarding the infrastructure. So I'm going to ask the question and you can kind of clarify it. Which infrastructure and public work projects are currently funded and moving forward utilizing the $400 million? And if they're not, are the ones that are underway reimbursable?
Great question. So the projects that are underway now fall into the category of reimbursable or non-DR funded. So they're projects that were already funded. Actually, like the Front Street Railing Project is a good example. That was funded right before the fire, if you folks remember that project. That's one, it's funded through county funds. And the other funds the other projects that we're working on are reimbursable projects that we are looking to the FEMA for those, like damage to sidewalks and damage to the roadway facilities. So those are other projects. And then the DR infrastructure dollars, that whole funding strategies slide is after all the other funds are used and you still can't finish the project, then that's where we come in with that. So none of the 400 million is set for those public works projects, but we do see the high likelihood of some of that going to some public works projects.
So is it possible to like plan on huge projects where we know we're going to run out of money and then these funds would basically pick up the slack, like maybe I don't know if new reservoirs, like there's huge infrastructure requirements. And so how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. The reservoir is a great example. So in our funding strategies meetings with the departments where we have public works, water supply, in DEM at the table, we ask questions like, what else could we do to solve this water problem that doesn't involve drilling a new well? Reservoir's another one. That's a great project. That's something we could do quickly. It may not be on like a 6-year CIP project right now, but now that we have this new strategy, that's the kind of question that we're asking to see if we can fill that gap. Thank you for that question.
When it comes to resiliency, is that something where potential desalination or some of the other technologies could be funded through this? And there again, I guess none of the funding is applicable unless you run out of money.
Well, if it's directly related to recovering from this disaster, then it has applicability. So if you're in that zone, then there's projects there that we can jump to the front because just the nature of where they were damaged. These other ancillary projects, it has to do with all those other funding sources that I talked about. So if you have a resilience project that seeks funding from one of the other programs that's listed, either federal or state, we may be able to supplement that project if it's a good resilience project or a mitigation project.
So my next question, it sounds like one of the challenges is infrastructure for West Maui to support the reconstruction of Lahaina and the sustainability and resiliency of Lahaina might not be in that particular area because it's the watershed, it's auxiliary, but it's a big part of it. How does that get carved out?
Well, the focus is clearly in and around Lahaina. So when I say auxiliary, the wastewater treatment plant is 5 miles north of town. So there's a lot of infrastructure that goes between the plant and the town that would directly support the town. So there's a good example of an auxiliary project that wasn't in the burn zone necessarily, but if we did something with that infrastructure in terms of resilience, it actually does help the disaster area. Does that make sense?
No, it does very much. Thank you for that answer. And it's also encouraging that it's really challenging what you're faced with.
So the way that we explain the narrative to the federal funders and how we tie things to the disaster is very, very important. And that's part of the strategy with this.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for my opportunity. I just wanted to say I'm really excited about the first-time homebuyer program. I had heard that, did we figure out which flood zones are not going to be applicable to be purchasing homes out of? Like if the Minatoya properties, some of them could be purchased. And would it help people who are interested in this program to start trying to get pre-qualified for how much of a loan they could get prior to August 11th, or does it matter when they pre-qualify, see how much they could pre-qualify for?
Those are both really good questions for Jeannie, who's right over here. So she's one of our subject matter experts that works for Horn and has dove into both of those questions. So I don't want to say something that's incorrect. So if it's okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon, council members, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. So to answer your first question about flood zones, any property that is outside of a flood zone that would require flood insurance. So the real key here is hoping to get folks into homes that they are not required to maintain flood insurance on, because that's going to add to their expenses. So point of clarity with that, if any part of the structure is within the flood zone, they will be required to have flood insurance. If part of the property, but not the structure, is within the flood zone, as long as that structure is free and clear, they will not be required to have flood insurance. So that is a fine line in some cases, certainly close to the coast. I hope that answers the question.
And so did we clarify about the sea level rise exposure area or the SLUREXA? Would people be able to purchase structures that are within the SLUREXA?
So if FEMA does not require flood insurance in those areas, then they would not be required, or it wouldn't be a prohibition for the program.
Okay, and then the next follow-up was, would it help people to start getting pre-qualified now for a loan? Because my understanding is that the CDBG-DR funds isn't going to be the entirety of the cost. They want you to have some skin in the game as well. So if they turn in an application on August 11th with like pre-qualified information, does that help their standing on, I think it's up to 600,000 match that they could receive?
Absolutely. So households, you are correct, do have to have a first mortgage if they are applying to this program. The intention of the program is to help to subsidize so that their monthly payment does not exceed 30% of their gross income on a monthly basis. So the program will provide that gap assistance. If they are able to go out on their own and pre-qualify for a mortgage, that would be great. They can upload that with their application when they submit it. If they're not able to do that or aren't sure how to do that, that's something that the program will direct them to Housing Counseling Services to be able to do that as well. So not required, but certainly helpful.
And so like on the prioritization of fire survivors, prioritization of low to moderate income, do you wait for the minimum 6-month application to prioritize, or do you prioritize as they come in? How does the prioritization work?
Yeah, applications are prioritized as they come in. So they'll be sorted according to those lowest income and fire impacted properties and processed in that order.
So it helps to get your application in early.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and knowing that like 80% of Lahaina were renters, if they lived in a generational family home, but their name wasn't on the deed, they would qualify for this first-time home owners program?
So the definition of a first-time home buyer is they must not currently own a property and must not have owned a property within the last 3 years. So if their name is not on a deed to a property, they could be eligible.
Couch surfing on their grandma's house, they're eligible? Okay. I'll yield because I talk to these guys all the time. I just was so excited about that first-time home buyers that I wanted to plug it, you know what I mean? So I see Member Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I too am excited for this first-time home buyers, so thank you for that. My questions is in regards to the mitigation funds. Now, just this morning, we were talking about a new affordable housing project, and we were talking about burying power lines, and we were talking about using the Affordable Housing Fund for it. Can we use this mitigation money to harden, resilient, our in a different district with those funds?
So, I mean, the short answer is yes, but we don't expect that fund to be big enough to fill all those gaps. We know we have a huge need in Lahaina already, so we're gonna focus there.
Okay.
But if there was a compelling project that also helped, that's something that we could bring to the table, and be happy to come and talk to you about that when the time is right.
Okay. Sounds like a discussion's in order. I'm all for it. So it's just something I would like maybe, now that we heard the yes.
I believe you're on my schedule next week.
There you go. See? We already setting up our
Yeah.
meeting. Okay, wonderful. That's good to hear. We heard yes. I didn't hear any pushback yet. Okay, so.
I'm giving you a policy correct answer from HUD.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I know it gets complicated with the federal requirements, which kind of brings me to my next question. Federal grants that can fill the gap. I know you had that pot, and you had all of the, like, I think we're short 70% of the pot, but you're planning to get federal grants. Some of the federal grants are so tricky and so contingent on this and that. The county, if they own the ferry, could reach out for federal grants to improve harbor systems, right? So you spin a lot of plates on this. Like you could get Lahaina Harbor fixed up with for the ferry because if we owned it. So I'm curious, how do you prioritize? Because there's so many federal grants. How do you go about, well, let's put our energy in this one? Because as you know, just the grant application process is very cumbersome. You have to hire out all the things to get people to even apply. And how do you prioritize the federal grants?
If it's okay, I'm going to ask our Stantec to come down. This is Kim, and this is her job to prioritize. So I'd ask her to give a brief explanation of how that prioritization works and how you're working with us on that, and then we're happy to bring her back for more detailed discussion.
Thanks. Yeah. At this stage, we're not prioritizing federal grants. We're really just looking at eligibilities because each federal grant, whether it's a disaster-specific grant or one of the annual grant programs, they have really narrow eligibilities. Some have really broad eligibilities. So right now, we're approaching it more from a project standpoint and going line by line through every single project that could potentially access DR funds, but are not prioritized yet. And then only just looking at the federal grant programs and state grant programs and seeing what matches up. I think that the prioritization would come in once the intake process starts for the CDBG DR funds. And then we would look at the different compliance requirements, the timelines, since federal funding is changing so much. It's more about that and not like prioritizing one grant program over another. It's really about which project is most aligned with that grant program.
You need a round peg for a round hole. I got it. Okay. My last question, if Chair will allow it, is real quick. In far as the green break and the bicycle path for West Maui, and you even asked us for suggestions. I'm always an advocate for agriculture parks. They don't burn down. Kula has an ag park. We love it. West Maui would be ideal to have where the WUI, the wildland urban interface meets the greenway, the bike lane, the farmland, all that to protect the town. What say you?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So, I mean, yeah, it makes sense, right? So part of the West Maui Greenway strategy itself is keeping it green, using it where we can to help with that very problem. Could we tie it into an ag park too, just above, and we know where that most high-risk area is? We are working with, and I might ask Josiah to weigh in on this one, the large landowners.
They have to be involved, of course.
For that very concept. In addition, what we're talking to Public Works about, and this is a little bit more global for Maui, is that what if we could change the way the watershed works, right? Like what if we can add a lot more vegetation on the mountain than is there? And I know that's just a simple way to put it, but when you do that, you actually change the way floods act, you change the way water gets absorbed into the aquifer and all of those things. So those things can be real engineering solutions that just happen to produce food too. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Chair, I think the only thing I would add is, we have been in discussions for a while now with multiple different parties who have been doing some amazing work out in the West Maui, in addition to, large landowners who, of course, are going to play a major role in this wildland-urban interface. The kind of other initiative that I would love to bring our Department of Ag back here one day to talk about is, been already in discussions with our Department of Parks and Recreation. And we see that like being able to spill over into other areas, potentially like the Greenway, about how we can create food sources in our like existing facilities. So not, cutting down coconut trees and not, cutting down ulu trees and whatever, seeing them as like a hazard or like, something else to that extent, but ways in which we can still accomplish other goals throughout the county. This is where like the holistic view comes in, and really the collaboration amongst agencies, breaking down silos, where, we can actually generate food for our community in these areas that we already need to establish trees and other forms of vegetation. So those discussions have been ongoing, and I'm sure our Department of Ag would love to talk to you guys more about that one day.
I'm all ears. Thank you so much, Director Ishida. Thank you, Chair.
Member Rollins Fernandez, followed by Member Sinin.
Mahalo, Chair. Okay, first question is to admin regarding the contracts with Horn. Have those contracts been executed, finalized, signed?
Yeah, and I believe technically I'm the last person in the chain that has signed it. So yeah, I don't know if we've formally sent out all the executed notices yet or anything like that, but the contract has been executed.
Okay, mahalo, Managing Director. And the cost for those, for that contract comes out of the 82 million for the admin? Or does it come out of the different pools of funding?
Yeah, it's a mix of which program it pulls from. Some is admin and some is program specific. So it depends. There's an administrative burden to everything that's done. That's just part of doing business. So it's not like we cut the admin fund in half because, or it's not like that. It's a portion of it will be used for that, but where we can use programs, even like hazard mitigation and others, depends on what the task is that the contractor's working on and how it gets divvied up and billed. And we can come back and talk about that in detail as the project goes along.
Mahalo, Director. Okay, and then I think my next question is for Lahaina Community Land Trust, and mahalo for the presentation and all your folks' work. What we heard in a testimony, that there's a lot of pride in our community, helping our community to uplift ourselves, and to not be so dependent and held hostage by, the mercy of others outside. And the testimony speaking to, the trust that they have in you folks, in the work, and in credibility and integrity. And because ultimately it's the work that'll speak for itself and not the words. In Aotearoa, in each iwi that we met with, na tanata, na tanata, na tanata, the people, because that is the essence of our communities. And if we lose that, then we lose the essence of the community. So one question for you and one question for admin. In 10 years, when we look back, in 20 years, when we look back, what is the story that you want to be told about Lahaina's recovery? And then the question for admin is, I heard you say that Mayor's directive is to ensure that our people have a home to return to, that they are prioritized. And so what are some of the guideline provisions incorporated that intend to achieve this goal, to not displace generational families? So Lahaina Community Land Trust and then admin.
I love this question so much. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Rollins Fernandez. In 10 years, when we look back, story I hope is told is that this is where it all changed, that this is where Lahaina rediscovered herself, where hope was reborn, where a new future was created. And my brother shared a quote, was it at the blessing? My brother Kaipo, he said something like, he hopes someday our children look back on this time, because they've paid a steep price too. His kids especially, mine also, they've lost their mother almost to this work. It's all I talk about, but they understand. And he said he hopes that our kids look back at what we've done with such pride and are also reaping the fruit of the seeds we're sowing. And so 10 years from now, I hope the story is that this is where it all began. This is where disaster recovery changed, even in the country, but especially for Hawaii, this is where this was a turning point. This was something beautiful that grew out of the ashes of this awful, awful tragedy, where we found new ways to keep our people home. We brought the tools here and we retrofitted them for what they needed to be for us, and we created a new future. That's what I hope.
This question just sent me to a place. No, it's great. Little known fact to some of you is the reason I'm even on Maui is because of the Japanese tsunami, which was 14 years ago. And what we didn't know was that that was going to set off, the tsunami was the easy part, that was going to set off a chain of irreversible actions when generational fishing villages were destroyed. And the families couldn't afford to put the docks and the infrastructure back. We're seeing it here. Two cousins decide they want to sell. What does selling mean? No one even bought land in that village before. Who are you going to sell to? A corporate fishing conglomerate, you know? Each parcel and the decisions made about those parcels affect families. Those families don't talk anymore. The fishing conglomerates moved in, cemented a lot of the shoreline, brought with them boats that carry a lot more fish than the local sustainable yield is, who answer to investors who care about quarterly returns and not whether there's enough fish in the sea for their kids to be able to fish. We didn't see any of that coming. I think people tried to tell us at the time, but I don't think we got it. And I need to be very clear, I would not have left. I would not have left that community. If it wasn't for the radiation, I would have stayed. But we had to leave because of the radiation, and we ended up here. And then I was pregnant, so we had to leave. And then this thing happened in Lahaina, and the memory of what happened to our community in Japan lives in my body. And so I hope, right now I look back at 14 years ago and I wish we had known better. I wish we had the words to know what we were up against, because there are fewer fish in the sea in my daughter's grandparents' fishing village than there were when the tsunami happened. That's never going to go back. There is less seaweed. There is less shoreline. And so in 10 years, when we look back at Lahaina, I hope that there are more fish in the sea. And all the things that come with that.
Mahalo, and then admin. How do we learn the lessons from those that we had to, try to prevent what happened?
Thank you, Chair. Mayor says this a lot, that basically if all we've done is build buildings but don't recognize the faces within them, then we've really failed our mission. And so I think the essence of the question is, how are we building programs and using these funds and whatnot to ensure that we're ultimately meeting that mission? I will say that it has to be a holistic approach. So not only do we view CDBG DR funds as kind of filling that gap, but CDBG DR just has to be one program in the suite of programs and projects of the county undertaking to help meet the needs of our community. Specific to DR, you know, I would say that ensuring that we have a diversity of programs and offerings. You know, I think I've heard from some other communities where, you know, the simplest administrative burden is like, let's do one program. It's kind of, it's what it is, and everybody just, you sign up for it or it doesn't work for you, too bad, so sad kind of thing. But understanding that meeting people where they're at, like we need to, you know, and that's why I'm so proud of all of our team. I know a lot of them had to leave, but, you know, the question is never on how much work is this going to create for me, or like how much burden or how much easier could it be for me if we do something else. It's always on like, how do we structure these programs to like meet people where they're at and like meet the need of where they're at. Doesn't matter if it's going to create a